Hey everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Tim.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
I was going to let people know that we actually did a take one of the intro and it had some tech issues, so we just restarted. And Tim already said something funny in the first take, and I wasn't sure how he was going to top it in the second take, but he did. I want everyone to know that he did. So we're a horror movie podcast. We talk about horror movies every week.
That's just like the way I just greet from now on. It doesn't matter the movie.
I felt you were going to tell us almost a Lighthouse-esque thing in there. You were going to, you're fun to be lobster.
Good too.
You're going to need a bigger boat, aren't you? Bigger boat. You need a bigger boat. So we're going to talk about Underwater, which came out in January this year. So it's a relatively fresh movie starring Kristen Stewart, directed by William Eubank. It is a monster movie, obviously underwater, but it's an underwater monster movie set in a deep drilling rig down the seabed. It's the deepest rig on Earth, according to the opening text that appears, or I think it was maybe during the opening titles there was some newspapers in the background or something, but something told me it was the deepest rig on Earth.
Right.
So there you go. That's that. That's that. I mean, that's basically the premise. There's chaos that happens. They have to. The premise of the movie is essentially that the main group of characters have to try and get from the main rig they're on to this other older station because all the escape pods have been damaged. So they have to get to this other rig or this other station to use their pods, and that's the goal of the movie, basically from the get-go. But of course there's some monster shenanigans along the way. So that's basically the gist of it. We'll start spoiler free, of course. We'll give you a warning before we go into spoilers. But I will ask Tim the question. How did you feel about Underwater?
I liked it quite a bit. I actually had some I guess maybe mildly high expectations because I'd heard a lot of people saying it was really good, especially considering usually associate these kind of January dump movies as not always being the best. So and also I think it's something that was made a while ago but had been shelved. I don't want to speak out of turn because I don't know the exact details, but I think I've heard people say possibly with some of the issues that TJ Miller had over the last couple of years might have had something to do with it, which it's definitely unfortunate that he's in the movie, but you get past all that stuff and what you have is just I think it's a really fun monster, I don't know, maybe even disaster movie. I guess I feel dealing with the environment as
it definitely
much as the monsters.
I think it starts off feeling more like a disaster movie. The first half hour I was like, this doesn't feel like a horror. Why am I doing this in Screams? This is a disaster movie with people trying to survive. This is not but then the monster stuff starts to come into it, and then from that point on it's more of a horror movie, and it's okay, fair enough.
And I won't spoil anything, but I will say that I really like the ending.
Okay. So here's the thing, Tim. You are far more positive than I am.
You didn't watch the movie.
No, I watched the movie, but I did not like the movie. I thought it was
interesting.
I thought it was extremely mediocre. I wouldn't say outright bad for the most part, but
Sure.
I had a hard time really engaging with it. There's right away. There's a weird fault I had with it. Is that I felt like it was missing the first act. I don't know if you agree with this, but
okay, yeah.
There's a quick scene with some really sort of bad kind of trying to sound meaningful narration, right, with Kristen Stewart. We don't have really context for who she's talking about. She was I used to always say this, and you were a glass half full kind of person, and I guess I just never saw the appeal of the half full. I'm more of a half empty. And it's this little speech she gives, and then almost immediately there's some sort of earthquake or whatever. There's ruptures and the chaos is happening, and the movie just gets going. And that to some people that may be like, oh, that's a great idea. That's not waste time. But I'm like, I kind of would have liked to spend some time getting to know the characters for 15 minutes before everything started.
It is actually a pretty a short movie. I think it's only about 93 minutes maybe.
Yeah, in that range, yeah.
But yeah, you think, I probably could have, spent 5 or 10 minutes. It does. I'm not necessarily gonna complain about that, but because I feel like my time is very precious. So, anyone that wants to, not waste as much as possible is fine by me. But I get what you're saying, though. It is very yeah, like very quick. Like she's brushing her teeth, and then yeah, there's like a big underwater quake, and then it's like we're off to the races.
Yeah, it felt like I missed the first 20 to 30 minutes of the movie, and it got going immediately. Almost to the point where I'm almost wondering if there was like a lot of stuff cut. Like I wonder, was there a whole section of the movie here that was just, like, left on the cutting room floor, because it just feels missing to me.
Sure.
And why is that a problem? I mean, it's kind of weird from a pacing element, because it's like it just goes straight into it. It actually feels like a video game almost. It was when the Vincent Cassel plays the captain of the rig, and when they eventually get to him and they find him, it reminded me of like a video game. I'm thinking of something like I'm trying to think of an example.
Crash Bandicoot.
Not Crash Bandicoot. Shut up. No, I'm thinking of like, there's a lot of video games where you'll sort of discover the characters as you're working through chaos, because video games do tend to start right away because they want you to be in an action setting right away so you can start playing it, and then they'll sort of introduce the characters after the initial chaos. And I felt like this was kind of following that mold in a weird way. But I mean, the
like,
downside,
why is this girl in this raiding this tomb, and then yeah, you find out eventually like, oh, okay.
I'm thinking stuff like Dead Space 2. I'm thinking stuff like I don't know, there's definitely examples of this. Tim's just he's making me sound a fool, but it's the thing. But the downside to this is that you don't really get to grow attached to the characters before everything gets going, and as a result, it was bouncing around the characters, and I found myself like not really knowing or caring who people were for a long time. It took a while to really even get a grasp of what the relationships were. There's actually two characters who are a couple, and I didn't realize they were a couple until like really far into the movie, like absurdly far.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree with you. Yeah, I had the same issue. I think it was like Emily and someone else. I think that you're talking about. There was like a couple, and I was
the woman from Iron Fist, Henwick, Jessica Henwick, and what's his face? Who's actually on Westworld right now? John Gallagher Jr. He's on Westworld this season.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I couldn't tell you like any of the characters' names. I think I remember. I think someone was Emily, but because I think Kristen Stewart like kept saying that a lot. But yeah, I mean, other than that, but
Tim, I will give you points. Can you guess what Kristen Stewart's name was?
God. I'm gonna go out on a limb here. I don't 100% think this is right, but was it Brahms?
Let's just say that someone named Victor might be looking for a cure for a disease.
Frankenstein? What?
Freeze, Victor Freeze.
Her name was Freeze?
Her name was Nora. God damn it.
Oh, okay.
You're supposed to be a comic book person, Tim.
You're supposed to be a clue giver.
that was a fine clue. That was a fine clue, and you're full of nonsense. So. Yeah, so yeah, there's actually a bunch of faces in here. I mean, you mentioned T.J. Miller, who, you know, but Kristen Stewart's there, Vincent Cassel's the captain, Jessica Henwick from Iron Fist is Emily, John Gallagher Jr., who's on Westworld this season, is Smith, and him and Emily are a couple, although it wasn't until someone actually said something about them being a couple, like 2/3 of the movie, I was like, wait, what? Those two are a couple. And I was wondering, it may have been the sound mix that was the issue with this, actually, because see, when they all first get together after the initial chaos of like everything happening, I had a hard time hearing a lot of the dialogue because there was so much sound effects of like sounds of like the structure, making noises and, like just rumblings and stuff.
That's why you got to put on the closed captioning.
I shouldn't have to, though. It shouldn't be a necessity.
I do that all the time. I'm just I just don't have the best hearing, and also it helps you focus on the movie too.
That's because you're reading the movie. You have to keep looking at it.
Yeah, exactly.
all right.
So I can't look at my phone because I'm looking at this thing.
Okay. I know what you like about the ending, right? I know what you like about it, and I wish I did too. I want to like that element at the end, But at that point, I was just so out of like caring about any of the characters or what was going on. And so much of the movie, like I feel like so many like movies like this where it's like a survival thriller, or you're doing kind of this, your group try to survive but getting to place. I'm thinking like anything either horror or otherwise, like something like Pitch Black or something like. Or even the other end of the spectrum, like just a pure survival movie like Daylight. I don't know if you saw Sylvester Stallone's Daylight. We're in the tunnel and they get trapped. No.
Oh, that does sound familiar, but no, I haven't seen it.
But like, I feel like this movie doesn't do a great job of making each section feel distinct. I honestly, like, as soon as I finished the movie, I came out of it and kind of went, okay, a lot of those sections are now mixed up in my mind, and I don't know, outside of maybe because certain characters are dead at certain points, so I can kind of say, okay, that had to happen before that, and this had to happen after that, and so on. For the most part, in my head, I'm like, wait, there was no like proper like, I don't know, tentpole moments for me that really kind of anchored the structure of the movie. So it felt kind of weird, and maybe not having the opening that I was expecting also kind of added to that, where I just kind of felt like I was just all of a sudden in this series of sort of similar sections.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean that's fair. I guess it didn't really bother me because I was just kind of. Well, first of all, I should say, like, I really like this kind of setting and aesthetic. Like, I like aquatic horror, a whole heck of a lot. Like, I like, stuff that takes place under the sea with crazy sea creatures and all that stuff. So I'm a little you know what I mean? Predetermined. Yeah, we had some technical difficulties, so we're recording a bit later than we normally do. So, so it's a bit longer since I've watched the movie. So, like, I'm also having the same issues with, remembering every like detail in the exact order and stuff. But like, while I was watching the movie, though, it wasn't as big a problem to me because, at least if there's not enough stuff to like differentiate it though, but I like the what they're doing and like the suits they're wearing and the design of the monsters coming out, and so I don't know, it's again, I'm not gonna say it's like a perfect movie. I can definitely see the flaws and stuff in it, but I still had a lot of fun watching it.
The sad part is I was just kind of bored after a certain point. It almost reminded me of Dunkirk, where it forgot to give me some proper character stuff, so I just kind of didn't have anything to care about after a certain point. After about 30-40 minutes, I'm like, you've not really given me anything. So I just, it's the like. I want, because you said you're really into like aquatic horror, you love this setting, and so do I. Like, there's moments in the early part of the movie where I'm like, I really want to be into this because I love them like creeping through tunnels that are half filled with water, hearing spooky noises in the distance. Even something as simple as like just hearing computerized voices from like the pods going, computer malfunction, pods or will not, please evacuate this building. This things like that. Resident Evil sounding noises. Like,
right.
All that stuff. I'm into all of it.
There's like a bit of a survival horror kind of quality to it. Yeah.
Unfortunately, one of my big problems with the creature, we'll say, is that. And what's funny is that I think T.J. Miller even refers to it as this. Maybe it's one of the other guys, but they actually refer to it as like some sort of Slender Man-esque thing. And honestly, once they said that, I couldn't get it out of my head. When we actually get a better look at it, that it actually does kind of look like just an underwater version of Slender Man, and I was kind of like, I'm less interested. It's not to say that there's no moments that I like. There's definitely a couple of small things that I like. But it's not even like I commit to this thinking, I'm going to get this great movie where I'm going to really care about all the characters and I'm going to like be so invested in their survival. But I was kind of hoping to at least be into them on a horror movie level where I'm in, like a slasher movie or something where they're not exactly deep characters, but they're somewhat memorable or they're likable or whatever, and I'm kind of into it from that aspect. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that the movie lacks a personality. It feels very clinical, I guess. Sure.
I mean, I can see it. Especially, underwater drillers are kind of known for having these big, boisterous personalities. So, it is a shame that they didn't take advantage of that.
I feel like Tim was cracking a joke, but I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that they do have big, boisterous personalities.
Okay.
The type of character, the type of person that can do that job and be down at the bottom of the ocean for months at a time, that takes character, right? That takes personality. They're all a bit kooky as a result.
What's the was it is the other example that, like, wasn't there like a Mark Wahlberg movie or something where he was on like a drilling thing on the ocean?
That was based on a true story. That wasn't necessarily deep down. No, that was like up in an normal oil rig, but that was Deepwater Horizon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Isn't that a PS4 game?
You're thinking of Horizon Zero Dawn.
Oh, okay. All right.
Stop confusing yourself. Because I love The Abyss. I think that. Bizarrely, I've watched a lot of aquatic horror in the last year or so. I watched
Star 6.
I watched Deep Star 6. I watched The Rift. I saw Leviathan again. I'd seen that before, admittedly.
Yeah.
But it's, I don't hate any of those movies. Some are better than others. I mean, obviously, The Abyss is actually a proper good movie, but out of those B-movie ones, Leviathan is the best one, and then The Rift, and then Deep Star 6 was kind of weirdly, like, uneventful until the last, 10 minutes. It was weird.
Yeah, I think I watched that either earlier this year or last year, and I was pretty disappointed in it, because it has, like, the coolest poster. Like, the poster for Deep Star 6 looks really badass, and then you watch it, it's kind of disappointing.
Yep. Yeah. The Rift, I mean, I was hoping for better things because it was from the director of PCs, so I was hoping for just nothing but pure gold, and it was just okay, but it is what it is. So creature design, I don't love. Obviously, there's some other elements to it we can't spoil from later in the movie, but it does a couple of good things. I guess the biggest problem is that it is kind of just the jump out of nowhere for jump scare kind of thing a lot of the time.
There are those moments, sure. I do like a lot of the, I think kind of like you maybe alluded to a little bit earlier, like I do like a lot of the quietness of just, kind of walking through these things, and when you would just kind of hear like banging on outside or something like that. So yeah, I mean, it definitely does the jump scare thing too. But I kind of like some of the other atmosphere you get with it.
Yeah, that's the frustrating thing for me is that I really love this type of set. I love, and there's not enough of it, and part of the reason why there's not enough of it. Yeah, sure, BioShock. It took me a second to register what you just said to me. You just yelled a word at me, and I'm like, what did he just say? Oh, BioShock. Yeah, BioShock. Yeah. And I think the reason why you don't see a lot of it is because it's expensive, and horror movies tend to be cheap, right? That's the truth of it. It takes a lot of money to do this.
Yeah, because it's hard to, because usually if you put electronics in the water, it'll usually like short circuit them. So it's usually kind of hard to find ways to work around that with these movies. It's true.
How am I supposed to respond to that? All right. So
you remember in Alien Resurrection when they have to swim through the water?
I do, yeah. It's an alright scene, to be honest. I mean, it's not the best movie, but
I like that movie. I'll defend it.
I like it, barring the last 20 minutes. I think the last 20 minutes it goes drastically downhill, but I do kind of like it up to that point. I think it's better than this movie.
I'd have to watch them back to
back. Weird clone Ripley who wants to screw an alien is more interesting in whatever this character that Kristen Stewart's supposed to be playing is. Where she's devoid of character, basically, is my thing. She has
an interesting haircut. That's enough.
What, you mean the Ripley haircut from Alien 3?
I guess so.
That is what it is. Oh dear. That's the other thing that really bothered me in that narration is that it doesn't come back until the very end. It opens with this try to be kind of philosophical narration about living deep underground and not knowing what the day night cycle is, and there's no day and night anymore. It's just awake and asleep, and it comes back at the very very end so she can say something as the movie's ending, and I'm just kind of like You're trying so hard to sound smart, but it just sounds really pretentious because there's nothing to like back any of this up. It just feels so fluffy. It's so fluffy. All right, let's get the spoiler warnings so we could dig into the bigger stuff that we want to talk about. But before we start the spoiler section, I'll thank our Patreon producers for the month. So thank you to David Short, Alison M. Fordyce, Cindy Palacios, and Tyler Hess. They are patrons at $20 or above, but you can of course support us and support everything we do and keep all the content coming by supporting us for as little as $1 per month over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. And for that $1 per month, you'll get an exclusive bonus episode of Screams, a movie review episode. So there's a back catalogue now of like 16 episodes, and you get a new one every month, and you can feel warm and fuzzy. At the $5 tier, you get early access by one day to all the movie review episodes, and you get to vote on an episode once per month. So go and have a look and see if you're interested in keeping all the content coming. And of course, you get stuff for the other shows that we have at MailFuzz TV too. But that's the Screams After Midnight stuff specifically.
Guarantee.
Yes, guarantee. Sure. What is this review time? So I had I think when it came out, I'd heard something loose along the lines of, oh, it's gonna be a little bit Lovecraftian. So yeah, all throughout the movie, I'm sitting going, there's nothing Lovecraftian about any of this. What's going on? There's nothing going on here that's remotely Lovecraftian. And it's not until, of course, the very end when you realise that the main creatures we've been seeing are just the sort of drones for the big creature that is Cthulhu size, and from a certain angle you might even mistake for Cthulhu because sometimes it's got like a sort of tentacly thing coming from its mouth. So yeah, they're definitely evoking a little bit of Cthulhu. Cthulhu crossed with like one of the kaiju from Pacific Rim, I guess would be my description of this thing. So that's their big money thing. That's the big money shots at the end, is this big thing.
Yeah. So yeah, what I like a lot about this is, yeah, I've heard those Lovecraftian things too, and that's always kind of dicey because a lot of times people will just say that for anything that has like a tentacle creature in it, which is like, it's like a very surface level way to describe it. What I like about this is that it's Lovecraftian in the terms of the idea of like just feeling extremely small and helpless in sight of this gigantic thing that like your human brain can barely like comprehend. Like that's what I really liked about that, is the just total helplessness and awe, especially at the end, which spoiler alert, she doesn't end up surviving, and so I actually thought it was pretty cool from that angle.
Yeah. I mean, I want to love it. I do. I really do. But my problem is, because you mentioned that she doesn't survive, and she sacrifices herself to save the couple. And I'm like, I wish I cared about any of these characters. This sacrifice meant nothing to me. Like, they have this big moment where she's like, no, I'm not going in. And I actually audibly laugh because Emily, Henwick's character, realizes that there's only 2 pods and there's 3 of them left, right? And they send up, the boyfriend get injured, so they send him up first. And she kind of realizes that Kristen Stewart's lying about there being a 3rd pod, and she claims she's going to try and fix it, but she's like, no, I'm not leaving you here alone. She's like, no, I've got no one. You go and be with your love of your life, blah blah. And there's a moment where Kristen Stewart punches her square on the nose to sort of hit her back into the thing, and it's a really rough looking punch. Like, it looks like a hard hit, but it made me laugh because it was just so, I don't know, like comically like straight punch to the face.
What I think is funny about it is I think most movies, the character would do that and then the other character would pass out, and then they would put him in the thing and autopilot or whatever. But usually don't just pass out from a punch. So I like that this is more like, no, she punches her and then she's just kind of like, ow, like, what the hell?
Yeah, she's kind of like still half out of it. She's kind of like, you bitch, what? Yeah. Look what you just did.
All right, screw you. Yeah, stay here for all I care.
So I wish I cared, because it goes for this big emotional beat, and this is where I feel missing like the connection to the characters, is when it tries to do this at the end, and she makes this grand speech as she like turns on the because she notices that all the drones, because we realize it's not just one of these creatures, there's like hundreds of thousands of them that are all under the control of this big one, and they're all sort of, you can see it on the, like, although I do have to question why their like computers have like a specific visual for this thing, because it looks, because the little because it's like, okay, you can see the two pods going to the surface, right? And the movie does acknowledge that you can't go to the surface too quickly. You have to go in these pods because otherwise the pressure will, kill you, whatever.
Hell yeah. It's true.
It's true. But so they're rising, and she looks at the computer. There's like a visual display of watching the two pods go up. Obviously, it's not a camera; it's like a sort of radar-esque kind of thing, right? Yeah. But then there's like all these little white, almost like semen-looking things like going after them, and I'm like, why is there a visual for these monsters? And why does why does it look like them?
Yeah, I thought that was really funny too. Yeah, like it's like the same color as them. It is. Yeah. I thought it was kind of tadpole shaped. You're saying it's semen, so that's interesting. But like,
just an incredible amount of sperm, Tim.
All right, incubus over here. Mm-hmm. No. Yeah, that was funny. I don't know. I do.
What's your point? You've been dumbfounded for the last like 30 seconds, Tim.
I just made a point. I'm just agreeing with you. That was a funny thing.
Okay, all right. That was the end of it. You agreed with my funny joke. Okay.
But it is cool though. Like the like you call them drones and stuff. Like what it kind of seemed like to me is they're like those like fish that you'll see like on the bottom of sharks or something, like they just like attach themselves to like other fish. Like I was trying to think like, all right, so are they their own separate creatures, or are they like actually a part of this thing? Again, it's like it doesn't really matter. It's just a cool thing.
I guess I assumed it was like Alien Queen and Aliens, where there's their own creatures, but they obey the Queen kind of thing.
That makes sense. Yeah,
that's why. But I mean, it could be anything. And there's nothing really to tell me it's that. I mean, the one moment I did really like is that when they're on the way to the final station, this station they've been trying to get to the whole movie, is they get attacked because they have to go through like there's like a sort of like area of them sleeping. There's all these like, the monsters. There's tons of them. So this is before we get the big reveal of the big one, and they're having to sneak through it really quietly, and they're dragging the guy because he's like knocked out in his suit. And I did like the suits for the record. I like these big bulky like deep sea diving suits. I love it when they treat underwater like space, where it's there's a couple of differences obviously, but there's a lot of similarities, there's a lot of parallels, and I kind of dig that. But they're dragging him through there, and they're getting to the station, and I did kind of like that one of these things actually starts to swallow Kristen Stewart in her suit hole, and she actually like sort of like blasts them from within. I appreciated that. I enjoyed that. And yeah, I mean, and obviously her setting the self-detonating thing at the end. Well, it's not even a self-detonator. To be fair, she just overloads the core or whatever it is, whatever it was. It's not like an actual built-in, because why would this have a self-destruct thing built into it? That doesn't make any sense. I actually, because at the end, when we see like newspaper things at the end, it talks about corruption and how they're not letting the two survivors talk to the press or anything like that, and they're keeping it on, and they're going to go back to digging very quickly. I was almost getting like, they try to like imply like an umbrella thing here where they want to go back down, or even like a Weyland-Yutani thing where they want to go back and investigate because they want to know more and they want to find these creatures.
Could be.
I mean, I don't think this made enough to get a sequel, but I mean, maybe that was the point, is that was a tease for where the sequel could go. We should probably talk about some of the other deaths and some of the other specific moments. Obviously, I kind of glossed over and just went to the end because the ending is the most interesting part.
For sure.
Let's be honest. But T.J. Miller gets sucked out of his suit. After they crawl through this gap, because they're going through like this tunnel that's like half filled with water in one of the stations, and they have to squeeze through.
I want to say, like, I wasn't really keeping count, but it does seem like there are more like either accidental or like environmental deaths than actual creature deaths. Because like the first one we have is which I did think was pretty cool, but the guy whose like helmet has a crack in it.
Oh yeah, he implodes because because they open the door to the seabed, and his helmet's not structurally integral in it. He just implodes. It's kind of nasty and wonderful.
I did think it was weird though that like I feel like most people kind of try to stay away from it, but it was like the trope of that you see in horror movies sometimes, where like the black character gets killed off first.
Yeah, I thought that it was so weird. Is that I've kind of wanted to like keep track of that, like watch a lot of slasher movies and sort of see if that's actually true, if it's one of these things it's become like a running thing, so we always expect it. But I was watching this and I'm like, yeah, the one black guy died first. That was like, why would you decide to do that now? I feel like you're like.
Yeah, like most people would probably be conscious enough of it that they would be like, "Oh no, let's stay away from that." But like, no, they didn't care. But I mean, in their defense, though, again, I do think it was a pretty cool kill.
It was a cool death, yeah. But I mean, it's just weird. It was.
I should say death, yeah, because it's not like it's not like the suit killed him or something.
Yeah. It wasn't an intentional thing. It was to show how dangerous it was going out here in the seabed, like how treacherous this low level walking, blah blah. That's what the movie is. It's just a walk from one station to the other. It just happens to be at the bottom of the seabed. So it's quite treacherous. Yeah, I mean, probably the character who has the biggest arc probably is Emily, just by the fact that she's not a trained diver. She's there to be like the scientist sort of assistant, and she actually like has to sort of get quite brave by the end to like help others, because at one point Kristen Stewart does get kind of like beaten, she's knocked out, and Emily has to come back from the safety of the station to come and drag her, and it's kind of like oh hey, she came back for her kind of moment, and she was like piss scared the whole movie. So it like that was like the one moment I felt okay, I actually felt like it paid off something they'd set up with a character where she'd been so scared. This felt like a genuine, she found the strength to be heroic for a moment kind of thing. Because there's this whole section where Kristen Stewart gets separated because she has a different suit. She ends up in a different station that's been abandoned. By the way, how many abandoned stations are at the floor of the seabed? Like, is this common around where people drill, that there's tons of these stations that are just left?
It happens all the time, but whatever they're drilling for, I guess is super precious.
Yeah. But she ends up with a different suit, so she stands out a little bit in the last chunk of the movie. Yeah, so yeah, TJ Miller gets sucked through things. The captain, Vincent Cassel, he just gets sort of like grabbed by a monster and pulled for miles in the water. And this is how Kristen Stewart gets separated, because she actually hangs on to him, and eventually they're rising to the surface too quick, and he's like, this is going to kill us both. You have to let go. That's kind of the big moment where he, perishes.
Yeah.
Into the water.
He ceases to be.
It ceases to be. I mean, I kind of appreciate that when they go to investigate, like, one of the old pods, like someone was in a pod before, like when this was all happening, because they sort of like detect it. Two of the guys go out. I kind of appreciate that none of them died there, because it felt a bit predictable that one would. So I appreciate that they didn't. It probably had the most bullshit jump scare of the whole movie though, because they had this like almost facehugger-esque shitty looking thing jump out at them.
Oh right, yeah.
Which they take in and kind of poke at a little bit, but there's not really much time to actually analyze it or give it any thought or whatever. And I do realize that me saying that I want an opening section that actually introduces the characters might feel like, well, you want a conventional movie. Don't all movies do that? And yeah, kind of they do, but like there is a reason. Like, it would have been okay if it flashed back. Let's say you wanted to have a big action beat at the start and then like flash back to like them all coming board. Like maybe you could have done that, but
I mean, like, you start off with Kristen Stewart's like getting ready for bed or whatever. She's like brushing, or I don't know if she just woke up or is going to sleep or whatever, but she's like brushing her teeth. But I mean, yeah, you could have easily had some other people also getting ready for their day or whatever they're doing, and just had like a little bit of banter or something.
When I think of any other movie that's got a situation like this, typically they do a job. They make a point of making me at least like some of the characters before stuff starts going, horror movie-esque or haywire. Like they'll give the characters a chance to interact, and we'll get a sense of, okay, who likes each other, who doesn't like each other, who's the Joker, who's the whatever. Oh, by the way, worst exchange in the movie is when one of the guys, it's the first guy who dies, Rodrigo, he says, he describes something as like in a really weird way and says, oh sorry, I watch a lot of anime, and then TJ Miller goes, oh, you watch a lot of anime? I watch a lot of anime. And so this more of, I'm like, screw you two, like, what? Get off my TV. I do not approve of this anime nonsense.
See, that was all I needed to get their characters. See, that was enough character building for me. Like, all right, I get these guys.
Yeah, and yeah, there is kind of like the opposite end of this that doesn't work, where everyone's a complete archetype, and it's just they're just filling out these roles. But I think this is a problem I've had with a lot of movies in the last several years, is that I feel like movies are so obsessed with trying to have characters feel more realistic. They go too far in the other direction where they're kind of bland because they are too kind of just normal-ish for the most part. Like they don't want them to be kind of cartoony and have them be, you know, the one guy who's kind of the nerdy guy, one guy who's a bit more jockey, one guy's kind of the Joker. Like they don't want to do that because they feel like that's a bit cheesier. But I'm like, there's a reason why that kind of worked in movies like this. It made them more memorable, and I don't necessarily need them to be super realistic in the context of this.
No, yeah, I get you. That makes sense. But
yeah, not to say that it can't be done. I just watched Alien again recently for the Ace, and that is a movie that absolutely does like sort of realistic characters that aren't archetypes and has them be memorable. But do you know what the difference is in that? Is that you've got a great cast who are like making it all work. Like, and forgive me for not thinking T.J. Miller and the one from Twilight. can't no.
I think Kristen Stewart's actually a pretty good actress.
I was being facetious. All right, I realize people like from other things. I am a bit critical of her because I do think she has kind of the same deadpan face in all of her movies. Because I saw Adventureland, and I thought she was pretty dull in that, but you know, whatever.
No, I mean, I think she's, you know, I wouldn't say like, you know, I'm like, oh man, like, yeah, she's my favorite or anything, but like, I don't mind her. And then, yeah, but I'm really not a big fan of TJ Miller. Like, obviously, I mean, even the whole, you know, he's kind of canceled at this point, but you know, even that stuff aside, I still kind of feel like he's, you know, a little grating. And you know, I mean, I guess he would probably have like the most personality of anyone because it is very obviously, you know, the comic relief, the Joker kind of guy, but, yeah, I mean, it's stuff like, you know, isn't really funny. Like, you know, there wasn't really much to most of the stuff he was saying. It just kind of always felt like, all right, now here's the kind of glib joke insert here.
Yeah, it's funny actually making a Twilight joke. I just realised that like both this and Lighthouse are kind of verging on Lovecraftian. It's kind of weird.
Oh, sure.
I think Patterson definitely was in the better movie. I'll just
well, yeah.
Between the two, I'll just say that. I don't know what Werewolf Boy was called, but maybe he'll be in a Lovecraftian movie soon. He'll be in the Asylum version. I still haven't seen it. I mean, unfortunately, the audience demands that one day we do the Twilight franchise, and I'm not really looking forward to it. But that's a goal on Patreon, probably, I think, or something. Okay. But there'll be a goal of some kind to unlock that, because I ain't doing it for no reason. But I feel like just from the impressions I've got from clips of those movies is that the dude playing the werewolf was really bad and probably has had no career since Twilight.
I think it was in a few things. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but I mean, I'm sure he's been in enough stuff.
Huh? Yeah, possibly.
I think I've seen like I know I've seen at least like 2 or 3 of those movies, but I can't really tell you which ones.
Yeah, I'm happy to say I've not seen them. I've heard some stories about how some awful moments play out, but so
it's like, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. I do think it's kind of annoying, like when people like make fun of them, because it's like, I mean, I don't particularly like them, but it's like it's not for us, you know. Like it has its audience, that's fine, but
yeah, but the stuff that I've heard about, or the stuff that the scenes I've had described, it's not that it's not for me. Like it can be not for us and still be well made, Tim. Like that's an option.
But like, I don't know, like if someone likes it though, I'm not gonna be like, you're stupid.
For example, I recently was forced to suffer through Cats. Now that movie is definitely not for me. I do not like musicals, but it's also complete trash. Like it can be both things, right?
But you do like cats though.
The actual animal, yes.
Yeah. So
weird, creepy, like cats who are trying to be sexy and singing about jellicles. No.
Well, I can't comment because I haven't seen it yet, but I look forward to the day.
Yeah. Why would you watch it, Tim? Don't do it to yourself. It's a bad idea.
Oh, I am intrigued.
There's no plot. It's just them singing for like nearly 2 hours. It's mind numbing.
Doesn't sound too bad.
It's just noise. I'll put it this way:
Oh,
I'd rather watch all 4 Leprechaun movies that we've done again than watch Cats again.
hell yeah. I'd be down for that.
That's not an offer, though. For the for the record, that's not an offer.
Oh, okay.
Hypothetical, just a purely hypothetical.
Right.
Just putting that there. So yeah, we haven't missed any. Have we missed any big deaths? I don't think we have. There's a couple of like people they find like sort of lying dead, kind of at the start. There's a moment where like Kristen Stewart has to like shut a door and like leave 2 people to die because it's filling up with water. So she has to cut off that hallway, you know. So,
Yeah.
So that's what it is. Is there anything else you want to add? Any moments you want to talk about? Any?
I mean, I guess not. Nothing specifically. I mean, I do kind of like some of the stuff in the beginning. Like I actually didn't mind that it like kind of starts right away, and then yeah, kind of like the sense of urgency, and then like that first death and stuff, and then it does get a bit murkier in the middle for me. But then again, I really do like the ending. And yeah, I don't know, I thought the monster designs like looked pretty decent. I wouldn't say like they're the best ever, but I think they work well for this movie. Like maybe they're not super distinctive, but like I don't know, I imagine that's what a a deep underwater creature could look like.
Well, you're
So I
the
thought that was
first
cool.
most authority on it, so of course if you
Of course.
approve, then
Yeah.
I guess it's okay.
I stopped for a second. I was like, yeah, it looks like a weird fish creature-y thing. Sure.
Yeah. The only justification for this is that because they're drilling deeper than anyone else is that they must have unlocked some chamber with creatures in it.
Oh no, we drilled into a big old monster. It's always man's hubris. That's
Joe, they could have very easily just tweaked this a little bit and it'd be a prequel to Pacific Rim. Well, they really could.
Sure.
It'd be so easy.
Yeah, I mean, you could have tied it into Pacific Rim or the Meg or because the Meg is actually like pretty similar. I think they're like they're trying to like explore some weird underwater section and they end up opening like some pocket thing where like a Meg was trapped.
Yeah, they're always opening pockets down the underwater, aren't they?
Yeah.
Always the pockets. You gotta be aware of those pockets, Tim. Very dangerous things. Dangerous business.
Yeah. I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if everything's going on the planet. Like, are we just gonna live underwater someday? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know how much longer we'll be able to survive up here. Are we gonna start having to move
If I
underwater?
could remember the opening lyric of the SpongeBob song, I'd have yelled it out then, but I can't. Something about something under the sea.
Sure. I mean, I don't watch children's cartoons, so I'll have to take your word for that. But
I don't do I. You've heard of SpongeBob freaking SquarePants? You know you have.
I'm vaguely aware. It's some type of child sponge that they like. I don't know. But
it was after my time as well. I never liked SpongeBob. SpongeBob was kind of just right after I would have watched something like that, so it seemed too kiddie to me when I was of that age.
It was right after I stopped watching cartoons, but right before I started watching cartoons again, so I kind of missed the boat. And then like between like 18 and maybe 22, I didn't watch that many cartoons, and then I was like, oh yeah.
Wait, you were watching cartoons from like up until you were 18? Most people stop a bit earlier than that, but all right.
Hey, there's some good stuff in there, But yeah, I forget why we're talking about cartoons.
Because you asked if we're gonna live underwater, and then I made a SpongeBob
Oh yeah.
joke, kind of.
I don't know. I mean, we might have to do it. We might come to it. And we might start living in pods and.
I don't think we realized this when we reviewed The Lighthouse a couple months ago, right? Because it was like January, maybe start of February, but it's amazing how much that movie is just about life now, about social distancing,
Yeah,
and how that's what we're all going through.
Yeah, Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, especially if you have like a, a roommate or something you can't stand, um, be tough. I, I do want to say though, for the record though, if we do start to live underwater, I do wonder if like seals will become our new dogs, because I feel like they're very dog-like, and I don't know. I can see us keeping them as pets and stuff. So
um,
that's that's what I wanted to say.
that's what you want to say. Okay, okay. I somehow want to turn this into a joke about Batman Forever because Seal did the main song for that soundtrack, but I don't know how to do it.
Sure.
I don't know how to turn it around into that, so I'm just going to gracefully move on
Okay.
to the next point. Yeah, Underwater is kind of forgive the word, a damp, middling movie to me. There's things that it's going for that I want to love, and like there's moments where it almost feels like it's going to just about to get there, and then it kind of its own mediocrity and dull characters get in the way of it being anything other than just okay. So I once it got going, I was a little bit bored, and I never really invested in the characters, and it kind of never came back around for me. So the only thing that I can think of that we haven't mentioned yet is the fact that TJ Miller has like a little like
Oh, the bunny.
the little bunny, yeah, stuffed
Yeah.
bunny that he even after his death he passes on, and they keep doing that. I think she has it. I think Emily has it at the end of the movie when she goes up, so the bunny survived.
Yeah. Yeah. You get it. It's good luck. You got to keep the money.
So I suppose we're at that point where we're going to rate the movie. Tim, what are you giving Underwater?
Yeah, so I wouldn't argue again too much of your points. I see where you're coming from, but I mean, for me, uh, it's just one of those things where you just gotta shut up and turn your brain off and just watch the dang movie, for God's sakes.
Just
And,
shut up.
stop being so greedy and wanting stuff like characterization. Just watch the freaking thing, for God's sakes. So no, I mean, yeah, there's flaws for sure, but I think if you're just looking for like some cool visuals, some cool creature designs, and some underwater shenanigans, as one might say, I think it's pretty good for your bet. For your buck, if you bet your buck to watch the movie, you'll end up winning. So
Bloody hell.
So I think there are flaws and stuff, so it's not perfect. It's not like, oh my god, amazing, best movie ever, but I do think it is pretty fun and that there's some stuff to like there. So I'm actually gonna give it a 7.5.
That was the longest build up to a goddamn score, maybe in the history of this show.
Maybe.
Yeah, 7.5 is insane. I cannot endorse that score at all. For me, this is a straight 5 out of 10. This is a straight down the middle. There's some things that I like. It's never terrible, really. It never like crosses the line to being like mind-numbingly bad or anything like that. There's some things to like. There's some things to dislike. But the apathy that comes with it is it's a straight 5 out of 10. I can't give it more. I wanted to like it. I really did. I really wanted to love this one.
Okay.
And it never became what I wanted it to be. It was just it's like it wanted to be taken seriously, like a new Alien movie, right? Like the original Alien wanted to be taken serious. This this AAA underwater horror movie, and it fails to do that. And because of that, because when something like that fails and is just okay, it's really mediocre. But
it wasn't as good as one of the best movies ever made.
No. All I'm trying to say is it because it was trying to be serious and trying to do this almost thoughtful, get going by the opening and closing narration, and wanted to be this thoughtful like movie. When it fails to be that, it's more frustrating because something that's schlocky and has just sort of like more fun B-movie characters can be easier to get into. It's harder to screw up, and I think that's why this suffers, because it's trying to be something. It feels like it would have been better off going a bit more goofy with it, a bit more fun, as opposed to this more dead serious tone that it has.
Okay. So more farts. That's what you wanted. Just characters constantly farting and slipping and falling down and saying, "Ooh, I broke my butt." That's what you wanted.
I'm misunderstood sometimes, you know that? I'm so misunderstood. Tim is a nightmare, and I hate it. All right. That has been Underwater. Let us know what you think of the movie in the comments below if you've seen it. Like and subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at Screams Midnight.
Comments below.
Comments under the video. Under video, not under the just under video. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, if they, I do have a good. If they, yeah, they're probably not going to do a sequel, but if they do, I got a good concept for it.
Yeah.
Above water.
Underwater, under video. At least one of us is wearing underpants, so you know. Guys on Twitter at Screams Midnight. We mentioned Patreon earlier. Go over to Patreon. Do make sure to like the podcast and all that. Rate the podcast on Apple Podcast. Give us 5 stars and a review. Helps us out a lot if you do that. If you like the show, you want to keep it all coming. All those things are fun ways to sort of help and we appreciate it all. So thank you very much once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching scary movies, guys, and we will see you next time.